Hi, Mike,
I'm Emma,
and welcome.
to Reddit stories, starting off with one that my sister sent me because she thought it was good. It's called Cutting Firewood in the Mountains of Central Idaho. Me, 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 me. Topeka, Kansas. I don't know. Anyway, in many rural areas of the American West, cutting firewood in national forests is a necessary chore if you want a warm house through the winter. Our home is in mountainous central Idaho was no exception. Our home in mountainous central Idaho was no exception. It was normal for my dad to pick me and my brothers up after school and head into the mountains for an afternoon of firewood gathering. My dad would fall the dead trees. Fell the dead trees?
Yeah. Oh,
Is that proper?
yeah.
My dad would fell the dead
You
trees,
fell a tree.
then saw them into
cut it down.
trunks. My brothers and I had the task of rolling the wood to the truck and loading it. We would continue this assembly line process until we had a truckload of wood, usually before nightfall. Hot, sweaty, and exhausted, we would pile into the truck cab and make our way down the mountain. At home the next day, we would unload and split the wood and stack it into neat little rows. This process was repeated until we had a winter's worth of fuel for our house, our grandma's cabin, and any extra for elderly neighbors. Isn't that nice of them?
Pretty traditional throughout.
Pretty average so
rural
far.
areas.
This particular afternoon, we decided to try a different logging road on the other side of the valley, aka they gonna die.
What?
All it takes is choosing something different in your
Just
routine.
one thing different,
One.
you're dead.
This was well outside our family logging area. No real reason for the change, but my dad said he wanted a change of scenery. This logging road hadn't been maintained in some time. Large rocks and fallen branches littered the path. My brothers and I had to walk in front, pushing rocks and wood out of the way as my dad lurched the truck up the switchbacks. Yard by yard, we slowly made our way up the mountain.
Okay.
All right, good. That hike was physically brutal. As we ascended the mountain and got farther into the trees, this odd feeling started to set in. I wasn't sure if it was the exhaustion from the hike or something more. There was electricity in the air, like the whole mountain was buzzing at a wavelength just below my senses. In some odd way, it felt like the mountain knew we were there, and it wasn't welcome to that fact. I wanted to say something to my brothers, but before I opened my mouth to my younger brother said, "Does anyone else feel like we're not welcome here?" My older brother and I stopped in our tracks and looked back at him. Both of us nodded in agreement. This moment was broken by my dad, honking and motioning us to continue clearing the path. Yeah, forget that scary feeling, let's not tell Dad. Reluctantly, we pushed forward to a small clearing in the woods where we finally stopped the truck.
Okay. So, creepy wood eyeballs.
All right. My dad, oblivious to our apprehension or simply choosing to ignore it, grabbed his saw and went to work. As the wood was felled and loaded, I couldn't shake this ominous feeling enveloping me like a dark shroud. I noticed my brothers were taking occasional glances over their shoulders as we worked. Everyone, but my dad, seemed on edge. The sun settled. Whoa. The sun nestled. The sun nestled down into the trees and twilight began to set in. As the light drained from the sky, my anxiety only intensified. It wasn't until my dad unexpectedly told us to load up that a wave of relief flooded over me. I could see the tension in my brothers melt away as well. The truck wasn't fully loaded. An oddity, getting half load was a waste, according to Dad. We would sometimes work into the dark just to make sure the truck was full. But tonight, he seemed eager to head home. With everything loaded, we started down the road. Although dead tired, everyone seemed to be in a much lighter mood. Apparently not Dad.
Dad, like the full load, got it.
So now Dad's going ape. We were chatting and cracking jokes while trying to blow off steam from the afternoon. We were almost out of the tree line and into the valley desert. Going down the switchback, you want to be careful, especially with a load, even if it was half that. A brown blur jumped up from down the slope side of the switchback. Shit was the only word that came out of my dad's mouth as he slammed on the brakes. Loaded with wood and traveling downhill, there was no way to avoid smashing into the blur. The truck finally ground to a standstill. The four of us peered through the windshield, nobody saying a word. Illuminated in the yellow glow of our headlights was a crumpled body of a deer. Grumbling and cursing the deer's existence, my dad exited the truck to investigate. Doing as they were told, my brother stayed put in the truck. I didn't listen, following close behind my dad.
Yeah, I'm gonna stay in the truck.
Somebody gonna snatch you up, little boy.
Why?
Free.
What?
It's probably some plane of like a deer god or something, like sends out one
A
of its little
deer god
minions and then
just
he's like,
kidnapping
there's that little
children?
boy, and he just runs by and picks him up.
I think deer gods really care for children.
The truck was fine. We hadn't been traveling fast when we smacked the deer. Just some hair and blood in the grill guard. Hitting a deer really wasn't that unusual. The mountains were full of them. What was unusual was that the deer dropped so quickly. At faster speeds, deer could still be upright, sprinting away to die in the woods after a collision. That last burst of an adrenaline dump, this one fell over like a rag doll. Before even approaching the carcass, a deep, foul smell hit us. The deer smelled so bad deer smell bad when they are alive, but this was on a whole other level. It was the smell of decay and rot. It was the smell of decay and rot. Honestly, rotting animals don't smell that bad, so, well, and it shouldn't smell that bad to begin with, that quickly after hitting it.
No.
My stomach began to turn as we got closer. My nostrils were burning. Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if something just threw a dead deer out at them.
Oh, a dead deer carcass.
Yeah, they threw it at the truck.
That would
Bigfoot.
Just with one hand, just toss like nothing. Before even approaching the carcass, I already read that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Coming up on the deer, it was clearly dead. Really, really dead. The stench was so overwhelming, my eyes were watering. The body was a true horror scene. The deer's eyes were gone, replaced with sunken, hollow holes. As if to overcompensate for their absence, the tongue was swollen and black as coal. It could not be contained and hung outside of its mouth. The underbelly was split open, entrails and offal spilled into the dirt. I don't actually know what offal is. Is that bile?
Maybe.
In the dim headlights, it looked as though the deer's fur and viscera were moving, wiggling almost. Holding my breath, I bent down for a closer look and my heart stopped. The deer, inside and out, was covered in maggots. It was dead, all right, but our truck didn't kill it. Clearly, it had been dead for days, if not weeks.
Yeah.
So we were correct.
Bigfoot threw a dead deer at a truck.
Well, that's what I was saying. I was like, dead animals actually smell metallic-y, and it's not super strong to begin with, actually.
Or like the maggots have risen up and are controlling the corpse now.
That's gross. It's like Princess Mononoke with those like possessed worm thingies and the boars. I backed away, retching. That electric anxiety came screaming back. My dad was always the quiet, stoic type, but right now, even in the dim headlights of the truck, I could see the abject horror in his face. His gaze wasn't on the deer, but focused down the mountain. Poorly masking the fear in his voice, he told me to firmly walk back to the truck and get inside. I obeyed without objection. As I grabbed the door handle, a loud shriek came out of the trees. Branches were shattering and breaking. Something was heading up the slope towards us.
Bigfoot.
You really? Is that what you're going with?
I'm
going to go with a Wendigo.
A Wendigo?
Sure.
Why would a Wendigo throw a deer?
Because he lives in the woods too. Just because he's a stag doesn't mean like he wouldn't kill his own brothers. Alright. I slammed my door closed just as my dad reached towards the truck. Before his door was shut, he pressed on the accelerator. The truck launched forward, sending us over the deer carcass. Bright idea, popped your tires on its bones, and racing downhill. With mine and my brothers yelling, it was hard to tell if the shrieking was following us. Our truck popped out of the tree line and into the desert sagebrush. Once out of the woods, everything quieted down. We were left with only the rumble of the engine and wind through the half-open windows. Pulling into our property, the truck came to a stop. We sat in silence. No one moved to leave the truck. Everyone started talking at once. We all had questions. What was the screaming? How does a dead deer jump uphill in front of a truck? There was no way the truck killed it. Dad just shook his head and motioned for us to quiet down. The deer was dead when we hit it. It didn't jump out in front of us. It was thrown at us. We stared at him.
Bigfoot.
Oh, shit! He explained that all... I don't know if I'd be excited if Bigfoot existed. That's a scary thought.
I wouldn't be excited.
I wouldn't.
It'd be
I hope we kill him as
outside.
fast as we found him. Anyway, Dad just shook his head and motioned us for us to quiet down. That deer was dead. Oh, sorry. He explained that all day up on the mountain he had felt uneasy, not wanting to worry us boys. He kept it to himself. He described it like walking into a stranger's living room while they were upstairs asleep. That feeling never left him, and as twilight came, he happened to catch a shadow in the corner of his eyes. Not far into the woods and saw figures moving from tree to tree. He couldn't focus on them long enough for a good look before they dodged behind trees. His stomach dropped. Working hard to keep his composure, he hurried us to the truck to leave. Interesting. Sounds like there's more than one thing.
Yeah, maybe
shadow
it's just like a bunch of Wendigos.
A bunch of figures moving from tree. I wonder if
Yeah.
it's just haunted or a family of Bigfoot.
A family of
A
Bigfoot.
family.
Maybe just a family of.
I mean,
crazy
if it's
vampires.
isolated out there, you don't think Bigfoots are out there having babies in the Appalachians?
Probably.
Let's see. It was after hitting the deer and discovering it was long dead that my dad pieced together what was happening. Something threw that deer to get us to stop. Before the shrieking began, he could hear something moving in the darkness beyond the road. It was a trap. Running back to the truck could have started an ambush or triggered a prey drive. So we walked back to the truck. A prey drive?
I'm guessing that's just like all of them,
Like-
like them funneling the prey.
Ambush or triggered a prey drive. I guess chasing, maybe.
Yeah, it's like
never
grabbing your
heard that
prey
before.
into.
That's interesting. The second we were inside, he drove that truck downhill with no intention of stopping or anyone or anything. That feeling of electricity didn't disappear until we hit the county highway. My brothers and I never saw anything as we drove away, but those screams from the forest will never leave my mind. We didn't gather firewood the rest of the season. For the first time in his life, my dad just bought what we needed, and although we started to gather wood again the next season, we've never been back up that particular mountain. The Forest Service has permanently closed and reclaimed that road. The only way back up into those woods is a long hike. One I'm not interested in ever taking again. Whatever was on that mountain, whatever threw that deer carcass, whatever chased us out of the woods, it did not want us there. It wanted us gone. Or worse, it wanted us dead.
I vote on
That was really
Bigfoot.
good.
Or it's like on a
People say
right.
great story,
Sure.
talent for writing. Yeah, mostly positive. Thank you to my sister for sharing the story. This was really good. I liked it.
It was good.
Mountains are
Enjoyed
super spoopy. I feel like this isn't something that's like so wild off the table that something similar couldn't happen. Like hearing a scream in the woods, the deer being thrown uphill. I'd probably die on spot.
You would freak out.
If I found out it had been decayed like way longer than it should have been for when we hit it, I would have been like, I'm gonna take myself out, y'all. It's been great, and then I'm just gonna find a cliff edge and take care of that.
Well, I mean, you probably wouldn't need to reach that by then.
I never make it on foot.
Probably definitely
Forget
not in
it.
snow.
All right, are we wanting to
Running
rate?
in snow is.
No. Dead. DE dead.
What do you give this story?
What are we rating it at? What's our scale
10.
today?
It's
All right.
always 10.
9.
9. Why
9.
did you say it that
I don't know.
way?
9.
Suspicious. That's a suspicious way to say 9. 9.
I wasn't thinking.
Why are
I
you
think
saying
9.
it like that?
Hey, what game were we
If I
watching?
go
Atomic
missing-
Heart. So we were watching a gameplay. Excuse me. I give 9. It's a solid storytelling.
I give it a 7. It's solid.
They set up like everything, like the story pacing was good, storytelling was good. There was some like minor, there was like one. Anyway,
There was
it
a
was all
typo
good.
somewhere.
I'm just blonde.
Yeah.
I just have a hard time reading long periods like this without trying to stop. So I messed up, but that's all right. It was good.
It was.
Golf clap.
Thank you guys for watching.
Like and subscribe, and if you liked it enough, share it.
We'll see you in the next one.